Everyone, I'm Krydania. Welcome to the Factory Must Grow episode 18. Today we are joined by none other than Michael Hendriks. How you doing today, Michael?
Fine, thanks.
Yeah, so
Hello,
excited
everybody.
to have you on the podcast. So Michael is a YouTuber who does lots of Factorio challenges and kind of zany videos, so to speak, and he also streams. He's been doing a Mega Base series recently on Twitch. What else are you working on currently, Michael?
I have a series on YouTube, the Warptorio playthrough, which I guess most people who watch me will be familiar with. It's coming to an end. I hope to round it up before Factorio 2.0 comes out on October 21st. And in terms of streaming, doing a 10,000 signs per minute vanilla megabase with biters enabled, because usually everybody switches them off when doing megabases. So I thought, why not do one with biters enabled?
That's awesome. Yeah, 10,000 is a huge number. I've never even gotten to 1,000 myself. So that's a big base. Where are you at right now in the process?
Well, the first time I made a 1,000 signs per minute base, I thought, man, I'm never going to do 10,000. That is just literally an order of magnitude worse, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But then, well, a lot later, I kind of got to try it, and I did, like a couple years ago, I finished one. Very suboptimal, but now I'm streaming. So I thought, why not try again in a better way? Currently, the 1,000 signs per minute factory is done, and we're kind of in between starting designs for the 10,000 signs per minute base and finishing the 1,000 signs per minute base. So then you have to think like stuff like producing 2 million solar panels for the end game.
Oh my gosh.
And clearing enough land, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I've tuned into the stream once or twice, and it's been really cool to watch. I think mega basing is something I really struggle with because I get bored and I struggle with the big projects. So I always admire people that can pound away at those things. So today on the cast, we'll be starting with another mod spotlight. As usual, we'll discuss the Factorio Friday facts that have come out, and we'll just do some hanging out with Michael, ask some questions about Warptorio and his streaming and video career and all that, and really excited to get into that. Quick announcement before we get into that, though. Satisfactory 1.0 is dropping in 9 days, I think it is. It's on September 10th, and so that's pretty exciting. I myself will be streaming pretty much daily when it comes out, and there's a lot of exciting new stuff that they just spoiled about their Tier 9 quantum stuff, so I'm really excited to check that out. Michael, are you a Satisfactory guy, or do you just kind of Factorio only?
I have never played Satisfactory yet. The thing is, I get hooked quite easily and I get nerd sniped on stuff quite easily. So I try to limit my exposure to other things than Factorio whenever I'm making a series with limited success usually. But yeah, that's why I didn't play any other Factory games. Not really.
Yeah, if you start, you won't be able to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely looking to be a pretty huge update for the game, and it's already an amazing game. So I'm excited to check that out. But I'm sure at some point you'll get to it because it's going to be worth it. But you know, the game's not for everybody. The 3D is very different, you know, in the handcrafted world. It's a very different vibe, even though it's a great factory game. So, you know, some people love it.
There is handcrafting involved. I might have to try that out.
Ooh, good point. And also, before we start, I want to thank the show's patrons. The show's possible because of you, the listener. If you'd like to support the podcast, you can head over to patreon.com/Krydania. I also want to shout out all the new patrons since the last month. Huge thank you in particular to Alexander Wales, Lord Moldmaker, Sir Moosin, Chris H, Bulby, and Edison EF. Thank you guys so much for supporting the cast. So today's mod spotlight is going to be one that might make sense to a lot of you, but we haven't spotlighted yet on the channel. It's Warptorio 2. So this was released by Pyrofire about 5 years ago, and it only has 31,000 downloads. Michael, what can you tell us about Warptorio?
Oh, only 30,000. I didn't know that. I thought it was more popular than that.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, so I kind of forgot how I first got into Warptorio. I really don't remember how I found it. But in general, what is Warptorio? It's kind of like a one of those mods which does not alter vanilla gameplay. So all of the regular stuff is still there, and it just adds some interesting challenges and concepts and like expand the technology tree on top of that. So the main feature of Warptorio is the Warp platform. You spawn in on top of that small platform, and then you have like 20 minutes before that platform warps away, and it will jump to a new world. And if you are not on that platform at the end, then you will get left behind.
Left
so that
behind.
platform, yeah. So that platform keeps jumping from world to world, and slowly you gain more and more control over the platform, unlocking technologies and new abilities, and eventually you'll be able to warp back to your home world where you started. And there's no official like victory condition, but to me it seems kind of implied that returning to your home world is kind of the goal of the mod pack. Though I'm not really sure that's the intended ending. There's not really a specified ending to the mod.
Yeah, and one thing I found interesting when I was playing it is that when you go to different planets, they're not all the same like compositions of ore. Like some of them have a lot of oil, or some have a lot of copper, and aren't some like they have even more biters than normal and stuff like that?
Yeah, there are different planets which you unlock at different stages of the game. So most of them are gate kept behind reaching a certain warp zone, so you don't get overwhelmed with a biter planet on your second warp or something. But yeah, the annoying planets with the missing ores, they are unlocked very early. So you just basically warp to a new world, and there's no iron. So I guess you'll be leaving quite quickly again.
Yep, we'll just hit that button real quick. Yeah, so we'll talk more about Warptorio later in the cast, but that's our mod spotlight. It's a very interesting mod, and yeah, maybe we did cover it before on the cast, but it's a pretty great one, and I think it's underrated, so maybe it's worth covering twice. But we'll talk more about it. First, let's get into the Friday facts. So there have been two since the last podcast. 425, which was called Behind the Legs, and 426, which was called Resource Search and Assembler GUI Improvements. FFF 425 was mostly kind of a behind the scenes episode. It wasn't so much about, spoiler content. It was more just about how they did stuff. And this one in particular was about the legs of Spidertrons and the pentapod enemies. It's a very interesting read. I wouldn't say any of it is massively exciting. It's just it's fun to see their process and how they make stuff. They talked about how they optimized, how the legs find where they can go, and they also had to come up with new pathfinding for the enemies because now the pentapods can walk over water, which is going to be interesting when you're defending a base. Now you can't just assume that a river is going to keep you safe. It has to be a very big river. So that'll be different. Also, there's a new pollution system, and they talked about kind of the new pollutant system. What do you think about that, Michael? I'm curious.
Sorry. About the new pollution system. Well, it's kind of interesting that different machines produce different types of pollution on different planets, and as a core mechanic, it's still gonna work the same. It's gonna spread out to the biters, and they're gonna attack you, I guess. So, yeah, basically basically a pollution rebalance for different planets with a different name, I guess.
Right, same song, different verse.
Yeah. No, yeah, of course. The how is it called? The ambience of that is quite nice.
Yes.
Just like imagining what's going on the planets and just forgetting into the like sort of the role-playing feel of Factorio. But I think Factorio Space Age more has the like where you are really putting yourself in the shoes of the Factorio guy more than the original game has that, where it's mostly about building the factory and not so much about the biters and the planet, whereas the Space Age is going to be mostly about the ambience, I think. It feels to me like that.
I agree. I think they've done a really good job, kind of, even though I wouldn't say it's lore necessarily. Like you say, it's a lot better ambiance. So it's much more world building and feeling like you're actually in the world and the universe that the engineer is in. I think it's even with the changes they're making to Nauvis in terms of the terrain and making that way more believable and natural, and I feel like even those changes, it just makes the whole game feel a lot more kind of like a cohesive experience rather than just, like you said, kind of, yeah, we're just throwing an engineer here so you feel like there's some reason that you're building a factory. But
yeah, so that's what I mean. I mean, when Factorio was created, that whole story was not there, and the planet was just the planet. But now
yep.
they've created all those other interesting new planets. They had to do something about Nauvis as well, because, yeah, that was just still like the based from the original game idea 10 years ago, you know?
Exactly. One other interesting thing is that they mentioned mods will be able to use this new pollution system, and you can only have one per surface. So you won't be able to have multiple types of pollution on the same planet, which is a little bit of a bummer, but they said for performance reasons, that's how they do it, which does make sense because pollution is already a fairly hungry thing, and there's going to be multiple surfaces, right? And they're all polluting at the same time. So that does make sense that they're limiting that. But I'll be interested to see what mods do with using multiple surfaces and having different pollutions on different surfaces, because then that means enemies can have a different attack priority based on kind of which surface you're on. So there might be, like in the vanilla example that we're going to see, it's like, okay, on Gleba, enemies are going to be attacking your bioengineering, bioprocessing stuff. But you could have other planets where enemies only attack your belts. For example, maybe belts make a specific type of pollution and they just go for the belts. And you could have all sorts of chaos like that. It'll be interesting to see, yeah, kind of where that goes. And then the only other thing in the Friday Facts was Arendelle. I say the only other thing. He went into a massively long TED talk on on how he made the Pentapod fight video. So he did a behind the scenes.
Deterministic, yeah.
Yeah, and it actually, I read the whole thing. It was very interesting, but all that to say, a lot more work went into it than you would think, because it is just a 1 minute, fight video, and you probably thought it only took a couple hours for him to crank that out, but it was a very involved project. So go read the Friday Facts if you're interested in seeing more about that. Okay, what about Friday Facts 426, Michael? What were some of the things they talked about there?
Well, apparently they obsoleted one of the of many users' favorite patches, the resource marker or resource map marker tool, which automatically labeled resources for you. But now you can do it. You will be able to do it in the Factorio base game and actually search for patches and how much they have, and pin them accordingly. So that kind of obsoletes that mod.
Yeah, it's really exciting that you can search, especially because now there's going to be new kinds of resources. Now your brain is having to think about different planets. I feel like when you're only on Nauvis, you can kind of remember where different resources are, but now you're going to be jumping between surfaces, and you're like, oh wait, where was that ore on this planet? Because I've been thinking about this other planet now, and so yeah, being able to search and you can pin them as well, which means that it'll keep the resource count kind of up on your. I assume it's just on the map view that it'll keep it pinned. I don't actually remember. Let me go see if I can read that. Where does it pin it?
Probably on the map view, because that's the only place you have text, I think.
Yeah. It pins it on the map view in the top right near the search bar for the ores. And you can search in remote view, of course. So if you're looking at another planet from afar, you can still search for it. Also, they made some changes to crafting machines. Michael, what did you think about those? Like the display.
Well, I agree with a lot of the changes which they have been making to the game, but this one is a little bit unnecessary, in my opinion. So the changes they made now, the tooltips now show some like production per second and stuff, which they claim is because it is now harder to actually see how much you need with all the productivity bonuses and the new buildings and the diminishing beacons and all that stuff. But in reality, it's the same like the base game. Once you get to productivity Mark III modules and beacons, due to the way productivity modules work with their additive speed penalty, which gets subtracted from the speed beacons, you cannot calculate that anyway. So you are using a calculator for that, or you are just winging it until the belt visually is full. So I didn't really see the need to clutter that up and to put the focus on that. It kind of puts the focus on that ratios need to be good or your factory will not work, which is just not the case. You can really just spaghetti stuff together and just make more of whatever is short and it will still work. So for me, the crafting machine tool tips are, I don't know how I feel about them. I think they're unnecessary.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I really like that take. I think I agree that putting a focus on it does say something. It is true that for a lot of players, they're already doing those calculations. They're doing the napkin math, so to speak, and this will be helpful for those players that would do that anyway. But there's also a large subset of players that don't do the napkin math. They are just eyeballing it. They are spaghettiing it. And for those players, this kind of does throw something in their face that they don't need or want. And I think I wonder if it'll be helpful if they could add a setting to disable it, maybe, or they disable it by default, and then there's a setting to enable it. That could be a good solution to that, I think.
Yeah, maybe. They also moved some stuff around on the interface, which I think looks better now. The tooltip over the recipe and the actual product and the button being disconnected. I think the new interface looks better, which is weird because usually I don't like it when things change.
Yeah, this change feels like a good one. So for those listening that haven't seen it, basically what they did is they took so when you've got your assembler open, you can see the item input on the left, there's the progress bar, and then on the right there's the item output. And when you would hover the item output, it would actually show you the tooltip for the recipe, which is different than showing you the tooltip for the output item. And so now they've separated that out. They added a little title bar above the progress bar that shows you the recipe, and you can highlight that. And now that there's Factoriopedia, you can alt-click everything, and it'll take you straight to the Factoriopedia entry. So now it's even more important that you have two separate pieces, because what if you want the recipe versus what if you want the item? You want to be able to alt-click both. And so now they have there's a title bar for the recipe with the icon for the recipe above the green progress bar. And that's the one that you can alt-click to get to the recipe. And then on the right side of the progress bar, it's just the output item. And if you alt-click that, you go straight to the item entry in the Factoriopedia, and it shows you the tooltip for just the item. And that's really handy in particular for spoilage, because they actually show you the amount of spoilage that the item has on that tooltip. And so in the previous iteration where they showed you the recipe, they wouldn't have been able to show you both. And so it was kind of like with spoilage added, there was another reason they needed to do this. And so that actually makes a lot of sense why they changed it. And I think it's a good change. And so I agree that one's helpful. And even though it is a change, it feels like it's not like the assembler output screen was very cluttered anyway. It felt like it had room to add something more, and I think this, by adding that title bar, I think it makes it a lot cleaner and make more sense to me. So yeah, back to your thought about the items per second. I think it's helpful because the numbers are bigger. I do agree with your argument that like the numbers were already complicated in late game vanilla Factorio. It's not like you could easily just be like, oh, 3 times 7 is 21. They were a lot harder than that. But I think now the numbers are going to be, we're talking like in the 20s or 30s or 40s multiplied. And so I think the napkin math, even though it may have been difficult before, it's even more difficult now to even maybe guesstimate. I'm guessing that's what happened kind of internally, is they're like, oh my God, these numbers are huge. I'm making like over 100 copper wire per second, whereas before the numbers were a little smaller. I wonder if that was part of it too. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, so that's the FFF. Pretty exciting stuff. Not major features here. They're just kind of, again, adding more little features, more quality of life mods that people have made that they thought, hey, this will be good in the base game. Let's do our version of that in vanilla. I do think YARM, which is short for yet another resource monitor, I do think that mod will still be useful because it allows you to measure the patch size, and it kind of allows you to make it so that it'll only notify you when patches are getting close to running out. Whereas this new pinning system it kind of feels like if you pin all your patches, that's too much. It's taking up too much space. Whereas Yarm kind of automatically hides everything. It has a setting to automatically hide everything until it becomes important for you to go find a new iron patch or whatever. Have you ever used Yarm?
No, I have used something similar in the past, but I didn't really like it just because it labeled everything. I usually just manually label the patches I want to use and for what I want to use them. Like, oh, here's like a huge copper patch and a somewhat smaller iron patch. These are going to be for green circuits or something like that. I just put a green circuit marker on the map, and I don't exactly need to know how much is in there because I already checked that the ratio was about right. And I could, if I really wanted to know how much resources are in there, I could just type 125 M for million or something.
Right.
And I don't really similar. I guess both of these Friday facts were kind of technical things, so no real cool things to talk about. And with these kinds of Friday facts, it's mostly just okay. I can read it and I can truly appreciate the changes and optimizations they made and all that kind of stuff, but it's not really. No, yeah, I just experience these Friday effects and move on. It's not really like you
Right.
have like super big talking points about where you can really. I mean, okay, yes, like cool optimizations, but yeah, it's cool. But what else can you say about it?
Yeah, there's no massive game design like implications from these FFFs. They're just solid. It's like eating your vegetables. You know, it's like this is good stuff. Like more quality of life, more optimizations. I love to hear it. I love to see it. And I like that they've kind of been bouncing back and forth between the really exciting Friday facts where like a new planet, new enemies, and then some of these more like technical optimization, quality of life. I like it.
Yeah, there's a good balance.
Yeah. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the past FFFs too, because I'm excited to get your take on some of them. But before we dive into Factorio specifics, let's start with kind of a zoomed out picture. Michael Hendriks, who are you? Like, what how'd you get into all this?
Yeah, it's been a long time. Who am I? I'm just some guy on the internet who makes Factorio videos and puts them on YouTube, and somehow that got out of hand a bit, and now it's my job.
Whoops.
Kind of no, yeah. I mean, I always hoped that it would be possible. So I can do a kind of a small background story, I guess.
Yeah,
So
please do.
I've been working like in translation, like translating products for a web shop for many years. But as you can guess, with the emergence of AI and all that kind of stuff, there was a expiration date on that job. So in the meantime, I started doing making videos for YouTube. Not really serious, just also was sort of as a creative outlet at first. But yeah, eventually, and at the start of 2022, no, sorry, at the start of this year, I lost my job, and
Oh,
I
I'm sorry
decided
to hear
just to
that.
go full time and see where it would take me. So I already had a pretty good support. So thanks everybody who's listening to this podcast right now. Thanks for your support. It means a lot to me that it gave me the confidence to try to go full time. And so far, I haven't thought about my job once after I lost it. So that's a good sign.
That is great. So what did you when you so like what was the first breakthrough video where you felt like it transitioned from, oh, this is just a fun random thing I do, to like, oh, there's a lot of people watching this, this might actually be a thing? Where was that transition?
Well, the biggest growth, both in mostly in my Patreon, which was when I did the Ultimate Deathville challenge, which was kind of the first video where I did like a voiceover, where I wrote a script beforehand and actually did a voiceover instead of just yellow text, which I used to do before. And people kind of liked either the idea of that playthrough or that the fact that I simply just talked. It was not the first time I talked in my videos, but it was the first like well edited series where I talked, and looks like that one. That one really took off, and that series grew my Patreon from like, just something from the side to whoa, this could be, once I lose my job, this could actually replace my uh, my lost job income if I lose my job. So that series, which is still also my personal favorite series of myself to date, is really what made the big change for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's really cool that you kind of felt like the support kept growing throughout the playthrough. So I do want to talk a little bit more about your kind of style of content and stuff. But one other question I have just about the beginning. How did you get into Factorio itself? Was it a love at first sight kind of game? Like, when did you first play it? What's your Factorio history?
Well, we can simply blame one single person for my Factorio addiction, and that person is Zisto. I don't know if you know him. He is not that active anymore. I'll just type it in the chat real quick, Zisto. So he was mainly a Minecraft YouTuber back 10 years ago, like 2014 or so. I used to watch his Mindcrack videos, and there was a super hostile series, which was like some sort of challenge maps where you could get through. And then one day he posted the first episode of his first Factorio series. And of course, I was watching him. And after a few episodes, I bought the game, and the rest is history.
Yep. So did you, sorry, I'm trying to think. When did you start making videos like for YouTube?
I have a really weird channel history in that regard. So the very first video I made on my channel was a Minecraft Skyblock video, and I just tried to make a video where I could use all the buzzwords, Minecraft, Skyblock, speedrun, time-lapse. It was my first video. I didn't have any followers or nothing, so I just wanted to see if I make a video with all these popular words, will it take off? And well, to my surprise, it gathered like 5 million views over the years. Not immediately, it took a while, but I just slowly started getting some subscribers. I think that single video got me up to like 7,000 subscribers or so.
Wow.
And then in the meantime, I started doing a bunch of low effort stream videos of like all other kinds of games like Civilization 4, Plants vs. Zombies, Cursed Treasure, which is a Flash game which doesn't even exist anymore. And eventually I made some notes. Let me just quickly look at my notes as well about the timestamps. Eventually I came across the forum where some guy posted, I beat Factorio in under 7 hours. And I thought to myself, wait, 7 hours? I think I can do better than that. And so I started trying, and as to this day, I am the unofficial world record holder of the speedrun in the Factorio version 0.11 category.
There you
and
go.
That is only because real runners like anti-elites and stuff, they started running the game from version 0.12. 0.11 doesn't even have a leaderboard, if I remember correctly. And I didn't know nothing about speedrunning. I just used the in-game timer. I used reloads, all these things which are like seriously frowned upon in actual speedrunning. But yeah, it's kind of funny.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love when you get best in world category, but for something that doesn't even, the leaderboard doesn't even exist. But hey, it's something to put on your wall.
There's like a proverb in. I think that's like a common thing in speedrunning. Like, if you want a world record, you just need to invent an obscure category which nobody runs.
Exactly. That's awesome. So yeah, you started doing Factorio, and then you got into that. And what are some of the different Factorio series that you've done throughout the years? You mentioned there was a Ultimate Death World one. What are some of the other ones you've done?
Oh yeah, so it started with that speedrun really. I posted that, and after that I got motivated to make more videos. Again, I still was not like a YouTuber with a lot of following. The first real like edited series I made with the yellow text over, or even white, I think. At first the first series was not that great, but it was Biter Island, just the smallest possible island on default settings, and Just basically trying and increased biter settings, but just a default progression and just trying to win the game from there. It was back in 2019. So I did have a bunch of experience with the game, but I was not really particularly good at it yet. I posted one episode of that. I didn't get a lot of attention, and after that I got hooked again on Minecraft. I spent another 3 months or so making a single Minecraft video where I completed the original challenge I set out to do in 2014. The original video was a comical failure of the challenge. And somehow that video set off like nothing else. And I got like 5 million views in 1 month on that single video.
Wow.
It was really like up there. So I did what any sane person would do, which is to never make another Minecraft video again. and instead, I got motivated to complete Biter Island Factorio. So episodes 2, 3, and 4 got out, and they got a lot of views from people coming from the Minecraft video. And I was just kind of hoping that some of the Minecraft audience would also enjoy Factorio and stick around.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Don't contact me for your marketing needs.
You clearly have got it figured out, though. It worked for you. But yeah, that's not exactly conventional wisdom, is it?
No, yeah. If I would have done the smart thing, I guess it was just then to jump on the Minecraft bandwagon. But I wasn't that motivated to make more Minecraft videos. I'm also not particularly good at the game. So I cannot do building, and I cannot do like super precise fast inputs. So both of those categories kind of go out the window there.
Yeah,
but Factorio is something which really fits me well, where you can just take things on a macro scale, and the micro doesn't matter all that much.
Yeah, and you seem like someone that likes to take your time with things too, which is, I feel like Factorio is very good for that.
You know, I see all these people get so many views on those single episode playthrough videos, and sometimes I try to do it, but I just cannot make a concise video. It just I have to put everything inside, you know. I think it's one of the unique things about my style, I guess, is instead of jumping over a lot of things, I don't only tell you about what I'm doing, but also how I'm doing it and why I'm doing it. And I kind of tend to go off on many tangents during my series, which kind of drags out the playtime. But I don't know. To me, it's all interesting. So I hope to my audience, it's all interesting as well. But that is mainly why my series takes so long.
Yeah, but that's why your audience likes you, is that you do go into those things and you do go on those tangents. Because for most of us who play Factorio, and, you know, I myself as a content creator do the same thing, where it's like I go on tangents when I play the game. So I think taking your viewers along with that journey on you or with you is a really good way to kind of help them feel like they're part of the playthrough. Whereas, and it is awesome to watch playthroughs, like you said, where people take one 500-hour playthrough and they condense it into a 40-minute video. You know, like that's really cool and impressive. But it triggers a different thing in your brain than when you get to like join someone on a playthrough. And I think those are different feelings, and people like both.
Yeah, I think in my challenges is particularly important. Like, let's take the Ultimate Death Well challenge, for example. If I would just jump over the beginning without justifying where I got my resources from, how I killed the biters early on with nothing, basically, I think there would be a lot of questions and like maybe allegations even of just jumping over stuff. How did I do it? It cannot be something like this. So I tend to really go in detail about stuff which I feel I need to justify, especially early on in the playthrough.
Yeah, well, speaking of allegations, we have something we have to talk about here. So you've been doing a Warptorio series, as we mentioned, and recently, and I didn't get the exact timeline written down, so I'm not sure which came first. But I was watching the Warptorio video where you were just starting to make warp modules, and you talked about how, you know, warp modules are great, and you kind of described this process where if you have enough warp modules, like 11 of them, they each give 10% productivity to creating more warp modules. So it is something that affects final products. And you were like, okay, if we can get 11 warp modules, then that means the productivity bar will fill up before the crafting bar. And so we'll get our extra productivity output, you know, when the green bar, the regular progress bar, is only at about 90%, and then we can deconstruct the building and it will give us all our ingredients back, and now we just got a free warp module, and you can repeat, rinse and repeat. And that process made sense, right? It's a little bit of cheating, but you called it 3D printing, which I like. But then somehow
I would call it cheesy, not cheating.
Okay. Fair enough. You're right. It is technically a game mechanic, so you are cheesing it rather than cheating. I like that. So then, however, you managed to somehow only make 2 sets of ingredients. So how did you what did you do there? I have allegations that you may be a dirty cheater. What happened?
Well, all right, so you're talking about the vanilla exploit, which I happened to stumble upon, and I'm ashamed to admit it, but almost a year ago. And I decided not to post it back then because it would mess things up, I would feel. So I just basically I posted it to my Patreons, but I didn't put in a bug report or anything like that. Also because I wanted to use it for the Warptorio series because I thought it was cool. I just thought I would get it done a little bit faster.
That's
instead
amazing.
Of taking almost a year.
So you sat on this secret for a year almost.
Yeah, I guess so. Let's first talk about how the exploit works, and then I will speak a bit about how I found it and why it took so long to come out.
Yes, please enlighten us.
The exploit is first about the warp modules. If you exceed 100% productivity bonus, like you said, you can deconstruct the assembler. And one of the game mechanics in Factorio, which changed from the early days, very early days, I guess, it's already a long time like that. You used to not get your crafting ingredients back if you deconstructed an assembler mid-cycle, but they changed it so that now you do. And I think when they did that, they kind of missed. That is where they made the oversight, because they didn't implement. Because first you lost your crafting ingredients when you deconstructed the assembler, so there was no way to exploit it because you lost your ingredients anyway. But then they made a change, and I think that is where the oversight happened. That's speculation. I don't have this confirmed or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But so what basically happens is you could use a construction bot to deconstruct the assembler. You do it outside of the range of your normal bots. You make sure you have only one construction bot in your armor and your personal roboport, so it doesn't get constructed instantly. And the bot just cannot pick up the assembler at one time because it needs to take out all the ingredients you're getting back first. And when the bot so you cannot take out the ingredients even if you mark the assembler for deconstruction. They won't show up. But as the bot starts to take out the first ingredient, suddenly all the ingredients do show up because the bot is starting to take out, like, instead of 200 red chips, there's now 194. And this is all, then it becomes visible, which means it becomes accessible for you to take out all the stuff as well. So the thing is, when the bot takes out the stuff, the green progress bar resets to 0, but the purple bonus bar would not reset to 0. But because you interrupted the deconstruction process and the assembler did not get deconstructed, now you're left with an empty assembler without having spent resources to make something, without having made anything. But now you have 10% productivity bonus.
Yeah, so you've made progress on the purple bar, but you've gotten all your ingredients back because the bot starting to take them made them accessible to you and paused the process.
Yes, so basically what happens is you just repeat that like 10-15 times, never letting the actual product finish, always taking out the ingredients again, and the purple bonus bar just keeps filling up until it exceeds 100% and gives you a bonus product. And there you've gotten your first product for free, you know. And if it happens to be a warp module, you can now add that to the system, and the second step will go twice as fast.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolute madman.
I kind of stumbled upon this when I was playing around. So I prepare my series quite well. The first playthrough, or the final playthrough of Warptorio, the test version, happened like, I guess, 9 or 10, maybe 11 months ago. when I had the entire strategy for the video finalized already, and I was just playing around with the end game base, and I just caught my eye. I don't know, at some moment it just caught my eye, something weird happened, and I didn't really register it. And then 20 minutes later or so, I went back to it and think, wait a minute, what's this? I first think it cannot be. This is such a once you know, it's one of the things. Once you know it, it's such a simple thing to see. How it can be missed for 9 years by the entire Factorio player base. No, it cannot be that it is something real, you know. But then it turned out to be, It's especially crazy because Factorio is not really a game known about its exploits, you know. Everything is locked off pretty well, usually. So.
When I saw it, I was blown away. I was like, "There's no way. How did everybody miss this for this long? When you have this many people who think about how to break things? Like Factorio players are known for their, they're really trying to do things as efficiently as possible and trying to take advantage of all the mechanics. So it's nuts to me that nobody found this.
Yeah, indeed. Same to me. I was also not scared, but I wouldn't have been surprised if somebody else would have found it after that I stumbled upon it and before I made the reveal. The thing is, it was such a cool exploit that I just really wanted to use it in Warptorio. So I thought, okay, I'll do this Warptorio series next, real quick. And then it'll get out there. And then it took 9 months to get to this point, because I go through everything so slow.
Yeah. So to dive a little bit into your process then, so do you record, so you said you had a plan for the whole series. Do you plan out kind of, like, did you play all the gameplay and now what's taking you time is to edit it down? So did you do that gameplay 9 months ago, or are you playing and then editing it into a video and then playing some more? Like, what's your process there?
So 9 months ago was the final test run, just to test my strategy for the run. Because to those who don't know, my Warptorio run is about trying to beat the games in as few warps as possible. And I settled on 8 warps being the minimum. So I had to develop a sound strategy to get that done, because it's not really a lot of time. So I developed the strategy, tested it out, did the refining final test run, and that was where I found the exploit. And only then I start just recording again. So I have a lot of experience already with the game I'm going to do.
Is that how you normally do series, or is this kind of a unique take?
No, it's how it's kind of how I normally do series. Not all of them, but some of them with like pretty hard challenges, which, I mean, there is no way you're gonna first try like some of the hardest challenges, so you need to prepare a little bit for that.
Right.
So yeah, I got Warptorio down to 8 warps. Now I know it can be done in 7, but it would be very annoying to watch, so I stuck with 8. And then I just start recording from the get-go, following my pre-planned strategy most of the time.
Yeah.
Not all of the time.
And then do you record? Go ahead.
When I actually record, I try to record in a way that is also pleasant to watch. So without too much like random zooming, random mouse wiggling, and really like displaying things well, which I want to have in the video, which kind of slows things down again a bit. But yeah, it looks nice for the video. So I record scenes like in a specific way. I make tons of saves. If you watch my streams, you will know I have hundreds of saves per game, so I can always go back and re-record something I'm not happy with. Or like record extra stuff after the fact because my script went on a tangent yet again and I don't have enough footage,
Yeah. So that's what I was going to ask. Do you record? So like once you started actually doing the series, did you record from start to finish you beating Warptorio, and then
No.
Or do you do like, I record one video's worth of content and then I start editing it, and then maybe I need to go back and, like you said, reload a save from here and reshoot that spot? Or like, is it kind of like that where you do record an episode, edit the episode, add in some pieces kind of one at a time?
Usually I'm a couple episodes ahead in terms of recording. Mostly so I can do some foreshadowing of things which will happen in the future. Like one of the, I guess, famous moments in one of my playthroughs is on the Ultimate Death Will challenge, where I very carefully made sure no biters, no terrain was generated beyond what I could see, so I could be sure there were no biters in the void. And then at some point, I even made a nice hazard concrete border, which I should never exceed, because in Factorio, terrain is slowly generated in the background up to 20 chunks away from the player, but not beyond. So if you explore those 20 chunks and never go with a spider, let's say, and never go beyond yourself, you can be sure the black void does not contain biters. So I did that completely, puzzled out the maximum range where I could be, made a nice hazard concrete border, so I had a visual reference where I should not go except behind my nuclear reactor, which is then I decided to blow up my landfill for the nuclear reactor because then it would absorb some pollution. And in doing so, I crossed that. I came within 20 chunks from the map border unknowingly. So terrain, including biters, started generating in the background again, unbeknownst to me. And at the last moment where I wanted to have the epic finale, truly eliminating all biters, I found out there were biters in the void, and I had to do the entire thing again,
Oh
which was
no.
uh, kind of a. So if something like that happens, then I can do some like minor foreshadowing a few episodes ahead because
Exactly.
I already know it's going to happen because I already played and recorded. But
Yeah.
I don't do the play through the entire 120-hour game and then be stuck with 120 hours of footage which I have to edit down. I usually do like targeted recording anyways, except for the beginning. But like for the first 8 warp zones in Warptorio, I recorded the entire thing because, well, it's basically one of those things where you have to be able to verify. I forgot the word to make sure that to let the people know you're not cheating. I forgot the word
Yeah.
for that. Yeah,
No,
so you
yeah,
have to do
justify
the
makes sense.
justify. Okay, so there I record everything, but now when I got to Warp Zone 8, which is very long, I just record like sections which I want in the video and skip all the boring stuff. And I kind of make some notes on it, but I usually just then watch back my recorded sections and then I remember what I wanted to show, write the script accordingly, accidentally go off on a couple tangents which lead to troubles in editing because then I need more footage and all that stuff. But eventually the video gets done like that. Yeah,
That's awesome.
final version, much has the right idea.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. That's a really interesting process, and I like to hear how different people do these things, because like when we had Dosh on the podcast, for example, he's the one that does do those sorts of like 500 hours of gameplay and then one video on it, and it's interesting to hear because obviously your series are different, like you said, because you're kind of walking through the process with the player or with the viewer, and you're doing many episodes in a series. Do you plan out at the beginning how many episodes your series is going to be, or do you kind of just make each one about 20 minutes worth and then kind of just see how many that makes?
No, it lasts how long it lasts. I usually don't know. I usually don't know how many episodes it's going to be. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I kind of do have a clue of the major. I don't always have a clue. I don't always know exactly how the entire playthrough is going to go, but I do know the major things. So, for example, I already like I forgot the word again. Telegraphed in the second episode of the Ultimate Death World Challenge that there would be no biters left alive at the end.
Right.
At the end of the playthrough. Dus, so I already knew about the map generation mechanics and how to manipulate them and how to get rid of biters and how to make sure there were no biters in the void which could expand back into your territory, like that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so then with the types of videos you do when Space Age releases, are you going to, and maybe you don't know this yet or you don't want to spoil it yet,
I'm
but
going in blind.
yeah. So then the question is, are you going to do a default world, or are you going to do some sort of special challenge for your first playthrough?
I haven't really thought about that just yet. So probably I don't know if the settings will change, but I'll probably just go with that world. I probably should have enough experience with the game, with the basics at least, to hold my own at least on Norvis, and we'll see how it goes in space and on the other planets where you just,
Uh-huh.
I guess, get dropped in.
Yeah, I'm really curious how the biter settings kind of work now that there's 5 planets. It'll be interesting to see what that looks like.
I mean, the main power from biters and Factorio comes not so much from their number, but more from the evolution factor. And we haven't really been spoiled by Factorio Friday Facts yet with how evolution on other planets works. Does it start when you arrive there, or does it just start from the moment you land on Norvis, or are the biters already going to be pre-evolved on there, or how is that going to go?
Yeah.
Not really sure. I don't know yet how that is
Yeah,
going to
it'll be
be. But I
interesting.
guess I'll just start standard that world and go from there.
That's fun. Lots to learn for sure.
Yes.
With Space Age, what are some of the features that you're really excited about that have been spoiled in the FFFs?
Right. So I actually made a list. Right. So yeah, like I mentioned before, I really like the effort they put into the ambience of the new planets and also the accompanying soundtracks. Not in the least because I added the Factorio soundtrack quite loud under my videos. It's like an integral part of the playthrough. So having an expanded palette to choose from
Yeah,
would be
palette.
is going to be great. Um, Another major thing which I really like is getting rid of the entire fluid mechanics system and just have it be not streaming. That is going to be great. If only they could apply that to the heat system as well, then we would
Yeah.
have calculation-free nuclear power plants. But unfortunately, I've been told that the heat flow mechanics work very different from fluid mechanics, which I didn't expect, but they do. So they cannot be simplified like that.
Yeah, well, the good news is we'll have fusion power, so we can just make nice and small fusion builds.
Yeah, fusion power. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, there's lots
Right.
of cool
Yeah.
stuff.
I think the best feature is probably going to be the new mechanic where you already can pre-place entities on landfill in your blueprint, so you don't have to stamp
Yes.
blueprint, wait for the bots to build it, then build the next roboport because the next roboport couldn't be placed. So you would need to build the landfill out in small strips at a time, and then build the stuff on top. And now you can just super force build with landfill included in a single click. That is going to be excellent.
Beautiful. Yeah, Super Force build is so amazing. I find myself thinking about how easy it's going to be to do a lot of the things that previously frustrated us as Factorio players. Like, I feel like they have hit so many of the nails on the head that were like sticking out and annoying, and it's just like, what is there going to be left to complain about? I feel they're just doing such a good job with all this stuff. So what about, you kind of mentioned even the putting the items per second output on the assemblers is something that you're not sure if you love. What are some of the other features where you're a little curious to see if it's something you like or not that they've spoiled? Or are there any others?
So one of the things I don't really like or understand why they want to implement it is the idea of diminishing beacons. Um, so currently the beacons just work in a linear way. How more beacons you add, how bigger the speed bonus is going to be. But it's going to be in some sort of diminishing returns pattern. So more beacons, every following beacon will add less benefit, but it doesn't really change the overall picture. The optimum build is still going to be as many beacons as possible because that gives the greatest boost, even though the returns are diminished. I mean, the cost of the beacons is negligible compared to
Right.
compared to the benefits, right? So
Yeah. I think the
it only makes it
idea
more complicated.
it does. I think the idea is that it allows for players who want to build less beacons into their blueprints to still essentially have a good benefit rather than only maybe a third of the benefit. Like you can use 4 beacons, and now that's going to be half as effective as 16 beacons rather than a fourth as effective. So I think it allows for a bit more diversity in builds towards the mid to late game even. It's true that in the ultra late game mega base stuff that it'll probably still be best to just use, you know, the 16 beacons and whatnot. But or was it 12 beacons? I can't even remember now. It was 4.
It
12.
It was not as extreme as quadratic. I think it was less severe, but yeah.
Yeah, but
similar idea.
I think it is quadratic, right? I thought they did a square root.
I know it's been a while.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the FFF in a while either, but I think it was quadratic. But all that to say, I find that I like the change simply because then you can just use a few beacons, and those first few beacons will have a big impact. And then if you do want to go and build the big stuff, it'll help. But I also find that the weird numbers might be a little bit of a downside. Like you said, it was kind of nice to just know, oh, if I have 4 beacons, that's twice as good as 2 beacons. And now that's not true. So that does feel a little bit weird. And it will be.
It's already not true in the base game as well, because the productivity bonus modules come with a speed penalty. So if you have 4 productivity bonus, you got minus 40% speed. And if you then add 1 speed beacon, you get plus 50% speed. But because of the minus 40, you go to plus 10% speed. And then the next beacon, you go to plus 60. And then you go to plus 110. So already the numbers are weird in the base game as well.
Yeah, the base game, it kind of was such that the results weren't linear, but at least the numbers that it added to the speed bonus were linear, right? Each beacon would add 40%. And now, not only are the results not linear, but the number that you're adding on when you add another beacon isn't linear. So it's all basically just a question mark. You're like, I'll just build the beacon and see what it says after I build it, because like I have no idea what it's going to be. And I think that might be part of why they're giving us the output numbers per second as well, is because it's like it's already going to be kind of a crapshoot to know what effect a beacon is going to have. I don't know.
Especially once quality is introduced and you have better beacons and worse beacons. And I kind of would have liked to. I don't know if it would be good for the base game. They talked about this, but they didn't implement it. But I really enjoyed the way space exploration implemented beacons. Where you can only have 1 beacon per assembler, but the beacons have way more module slots to fill.
Yeah.
I kind of enjoyed designing my builds around a single beacon and building it like that. And you would get nice looking builds without the endless rows of beacons. So
yeah,
I kind of enjoyed that mechanic.
I liked that because there were there were entire builds that you had with just 1 beacon rather than entire beacons with just 1 assembler. You know, it put the assemblers back to being the focus rather than the beacons, and I did like that about the space exploration beacons. You did mention quality. That is one particular mechanic that I like to get everyone's take on, because I find it to be the biggest change of all of like the core mechanics of the game. So I'm curious how do you feel about quality overall as a mechanic?
Yeah, I'm a bit two-sided on it, I guess. I mean, it sounds great for the end tier stuff, like making the best possible power armor you can and the best possible equipment to go in. Or like maybe a rocket launcher, which nukes are launched by rocket launchers. So it would be great to have a rocket launcher with extra range, something like that. On the other side, I'm not quite sure how I feel about legendary copper wires, for instance. It just feels so out of place. What the heck is a legendary copper wire? You know, so it feels like it may have been over implemented a bit. But then again, I don't know. Maybe it's necessary for the gameplay to get to the build up to the legendary items. So I guess we first need to get a bit of a real gameplay experiments to see how it will really turn out to be. But yeah, at least it sounds a bit strange to have legendary copper wires.
I agree. Or yeah, as the legendary spent uranium fuel cell. Yeah. I do think there's going to be a mod probably on day 1 to rename the qualities, because I think a lot of people agree with that. But what about the overall, like, do you feel that it changes the vibe of the game to add, one thing that a lot of people like to debate about or talk about is the idea of the chance, right? You only get a chance to get a certain upgrade in quality. Do you feel that that is antithetical or opposite to Factorio's design previously, or do you think it fits well?
No, I think it's okay. It doesn't really change things, especially because most of those things you're going to be producing in large numbers anyway, so you can get a fairly good idea of what you are supposed to get and what you 99% sure will get from a large sample. So
exactly. Yeah, I know.
it
I
doesn't
agree.
really matter to
The
me.
law of large numbers is eventually going to take over.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think the quality mechanic is so interesting, just because they really. I feel like with everything else, literally every other mechanic they've talked about, I felt like, yeah, that pretty much feels like something that fits within the realm of Factorio as we know it. But quality, it completely changes everything, right? Because now there's 5 tiers to everything. Even the tiers of buildings that we have, there's 5 tiers of a similar one, and there's 5. It really adds a new dimension, right, to tiers.
The quality mechanic is gonna make a divide between people who build like bases, like let's call it like in survival mode, just playing through the game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Quality is the first mechanic which is introduced, which you just cannot you cannot make everything legendary quality. That would just take too much time. I mean, Factorio games are hundreds of hours long, but if you want to make a like 1,000 or 10,000 signs per minute mega base, you cannot get everything to legendary quality. But you also have the people who build like mega bases optimized for UPS with the map editor, and of course there you can get everything in legendary quality. So there's going to be like a divide between organically built, like in-game build bases and map editor build bases, which currently does not exist because even now it is possible to actually produce the tens of thousands of tier 3 modules you need to build a 10,000 signs per minute base. It takes a while, but
Right.
if you need to design everything anyway, you can do it. And I am actually doing that at the moment in the 10,000 signs per minute stream, so I know it's possible. But with the quality mechanic, that is going to be out of reach. That is just going to take like 100 times as much time as you would need to complete the rest of the game. So it's not going
Yeah.
to be viable to actually do that.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see, yeah, like how much it changes what the optimal or best possible builds look like. Because obviously, if everything's legendary, that's better. But then that costs you too much. So where's the balance? Because eventually things pay for themselves, right? The amortization rate, or however it's pronounced. And so it's like, what's the rate on getting things to legendary? Eventually it'll pay for itself. How many hours will that be? I'm curious if it's a playable amount of hours or something in the 10,000s or something. But
no, too many. It will be too many before
yeah,
it pays off.
I guess we'll
100%.
see. I think it'll be there will be certain things that will be worth going legendary early, and there will be certain things that won't. And I just like that it'll be every player will kind of have a different feeling on what they want to be higher quality first. And I like that it adds a little bit more, I feel like, diversity into a playthrough. One other mechanic, I guess the only other one they added that does feel kind of like a new concept, is spoilage. How do you feel about spoilage?
I think that's okay. That's an okay mechanic. It suits the planet of Gleba well with the organic resources. So I guess once you got a production line, it just eliminates like buffers from the game, right? Which is a
Right.
good thing because
Agreed.
buffers are a great way to hide your base's faults for a while, and then it suddenly hits you very hard.
Yeah.
So
No, I like that.
I think
I think it's
it fits really
interesting
well.
because now I was thinking about this a couple of podcasts ago. I feel like spoilage changes also how you build, because now the distance of your belt matters, right? Before, you could belt something as far as you want, and yeah, it would change the lag time between when you start and when it gets there, but it's not going to change your throughput at all. Whereas now you have a ticking clock as soon as you get that fruit, off the tree or whatever with your crane. And now it's like, okay, everything I have to do has to be close enough that it doesn't take too much time to get there. And I think it's actually a really cool mechanic. I'm excited to try it out, but it certainly changes things a bit. And I like that they're kind of mixing up some of the gameplay with these ideas. Do you think they're going to add new mechanics for the other planets as well, like spoilage?
I have no idea. I'm not involved in the process, so I think we'll have to see. There's still one mystery planet, right, which they haven't revealed anything about just yet, if I
Sure
remember
is.
correct.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what
we'll
comes.
see what that's about.
For sure.
I kind of hope they don't reveal stuff about that and just release it, just to get at least some spoiler-free content still, because of course the file effects they give like previews and all the kind of things. So one of the things I am worried about though with the Factorio 2.0 is so I read Kovarex was making his own base. Kovarex is the lead developer, I think, and he was getting, he said, close to 1 million signs per minute. And I'm just thinking, where is all of that going to go? How is that going to look? It feels a little bit over the top, really, to have that much, like, I don't know, to have that much signs per minute going on into just like a vanilla base without an obscene amount of effort, I guess. So I'm kind of worried. I'm kind of worried with all the additions, the extra productivity, the extra optimizations here, extra this, extra that, that things are getting out of proportion a little bit, maybe. So
yeah, someone in the comments called it hyperinflation. I think that's a good word for it. Stuff is getting inflated.
Yeah, I think so. That's a good word for it. So I'm not really sure how that aspect of the game is gonna play. But for me, I'm just going to treat it like I would with any other overhaul mod pack, and just jump in it with that mindset, and I guess expect the unexpected.
Yeah, me too. I'm so excited for it. It'll be great. Are there any other final thoughts you have before we wrap up, Michael?
Yeah, I wanted to shout out some of the favorite Factorio series which I've seen. So we already established that Zisto is the GOAT which got me into Factorio. One of the most interesting playthroughs he did was Factorio Recursion, where he used the Factorissimo mod, which basically adds placeable factory buildings to the game. And those factories can be nested under certain conditions. So what he did is he built an entire base into a single factory building, which is a really cool concept. And I'm kind of doing the same I'm kind of going to do the same for my end game Warptorio base, where I'm just going to build the entire base inside of the Warp platform and just see how much I can extract out of that.
That's cool.
And I saw Dosh Doshington in the chat as well. He has a lot of good runs. But I think my favorite run of his is the no belts run. The no belts run, where he uses those cargo wagons to make sort of a weird main boss style of base. That was really satisfying to watch, with the instant transmission of resources to the other side of the bus through the cargo wagons. And last of all, I have to credit Doc Jade as well, which would probably make a pretty good guest on your podcast as well. He likes to talk as it seems. So, I've literally copied like 2 of his challenges for my streams. One of them is the Science Galore mod, which is another vanilla gameplay mod which just changes nothing. Just it only adds 36 science packs to the game, which you all need to automate.
36.
And the other one was. Yes, so we have 43 science packs to automate.
Okay.
That's quite a lot. And the other one was the 12 by 9 map challenge, which is basically a ribbon world in both directions, just a postage stamp of a map. And that kind of nerd sniped me into doing an optimization challenge, where I made Excels of optimal build and tech orders to launch a rocket as fast as possible. So that probably was another 2 weeks delay on my Warptorio series right there. Thank you, Doc.
Yeah, that's awesome. I haven't seen that one. My favorite of Dosh's, you were mentioning, that was the train one where he went to the end of the world. That one just felt so cool, sending a train all the way to the edge of the map. It's so crazy how big the map is. But yeah, he also inspired one of my runs. I did the Dangerous run as well, and I found that one to be really fun. a really interesting mod. Though it's class store phobic is the new version that doesn't have a weird lag issue that was introduced. Anyway, I digress. But awesome. Well, yeah, Michael, thank you so much for being on the podcast. This has been a blast.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It went pretty well.
Yeah, I loved having you here, and would love to have you on again in the future at some point. Maybe after Space Ages come out, we can discuss some stuff there. But to all of you listeners, if you'd like to support the podcast, you can head over to patreon.com/Krydaks. Michael, do you have places where people can support you? You've got a Patreon, right?
Yeah, I've got a Patreon. Is probably the best place to support is Patreon. But of course, if you don't have the funds, don't do it. But you can always subscribe to YouTube and watch Twitch. That also helps.
Yeah. So you guys head over, check out Michael Hendriks if you haven't yet. He's an awesome creator, and like he said, if you want to support, please do. Obviously, if you don't have the money, don't. But that's how money works. So duh. But yeah. So again, thank you, Michael, for being on. It's been wonderful having you on the cast. Other than that, the first and third Sunday of the month is when this podcast streams. We'll be having Galdoc on the next stream, and that will be actually on a Monday. I say first and third Sunday, but the next one's going to be on the Monday, which will be, I don't have my calendar pulled up. September 16th is the next podcast. We'll have Galdoc back on the stream. We'll be talking more Factorio stuff, maybe some mod development stuff, because that's what he does, and I always find those conversations to be really interesting as well. If you guys have any questions, ideas for guests that we could have on the channel, like Michael was just saying, Doc Jade, please head over to the Krydania Discord and let me know there. That's the best place to contact me. But there's also these VODs are on my second YouTube channel, so you can also leave comments there. So just, you guys let me know, and I'm excited to see you there. Other than that, always remember, the factory must grow, and we'll see you guys next time.
Right. Bye.